Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Trust and Believe. I'm so excited you came back this week. This is the first ever Trust and Believe podcast where I am going to have you take action on your transformation. And we're going to do this every other week, okay? So make sure you go to shauntfitness.com/take action so you can download the worksheet each and every week so that you can actually take action with me and go on the journey every other week. So I'm gonna hop right into it because I know you're busy. I just put my boys to bed before I recorded this particular podcast. And I think it's very important that we literally sit back and take action on what it is that we listen to, because a lot of times we listen to podcasts and we listen to things and the story is really inspirational and amazing, but it goes in one ear, right out the other. And then we don't actually utilize it until we're super stressed or until we get to a point in our lives where we're like, oh my gosh, oh yeah, that particular podcast motivated me. And so while the transformation stories that we do every other week are motivational and inspirational, I want you to literally take action. And before we begin, I just want to let you know that if you're not already a member of my SafeSpace, you can go to shauntfitness.com/SafeSpace. And this is not for the masses. Maybe it's not for you, but it's for people of all walks of life, of all ages, of all different income levels. So this has nothing to do with how, successful you are in your business. This is about whether you're a CEO or whether you're an entry-level position or whether you're a mom, a dad, a first-time mom, whether you are a coach or whether you are a client of someone. How do you actually utilize what you're going through in your life and utilize the superpowers to push you forward so that, okay, now say you are a seven-figure CEO, you still have to push yourself to the next level and you still stress. And that's what I want to say. One of the things I talked about this week and with my team is, money chases passion. Passion doesn't chase money. Like if you work hard for what it is that you're passionate about and you're doing it for a living, the money's going to follow. And, the passion can't follow money. And if it does, and you can ask a lot of people, money can go and you're like trying to find a passion for the money. But if it's not there, there's a sense of miserableness that you have to go through. You have to kind of fight your way through it. And the reason why I'm saying this, even if it's people who have reached a level of weight loss and they have a six-pack, they still have to find a place to go to continue to be sustainable and transform and push themselves forward. So the safe space is for everybody. And this first episode of Take Action is about you literally looking at your life, where it is at this very moment, and figuring out, what can I do? And so what I'm going to provide here, it starts here. And then it filters out into the safe space. It's going to be real time. So it's real time solutions where we're going to do monthly trainings, one-on-one or one-on-you, me with you as a group, and then a special guest every month for different parts of your transformation. And then you get a lot of behind the scenes things that's happening. Okay, so right now we're going to move into Take Action Part 1. And as you all know, last week, or if you haven't listened to the episode, the first episode of the new season, Kristin Tierney was on, and I was so inspired. I was on vacation, and I read through her book again. The first time I read through it, I got it as a galley, and I was like, wow, I need to check this out. And then I read it again, really putting my heart and soul into it because at the time I was on vacation, and just reading it twice through, and the second time more deliberate, because I was kind of rushed the first time. I really internalized a lot of things that was happening in her life. And so we're going to get right into this. If you've downloaded the worksheet, you know that we are going to actually utilize some superpowers that happen as you go through your struggle. And we're going to talk about Kristin along the way. And then we're going to focus on how you can actually utilize your superpower. So if you look at the sheet, you already see that superpower number 1 is uncomfortable. And that's the first superpower in my book all the time. Obviously, I talk about it, but it's the first superpower just because I think it's very important for us to shatter the glass ceiling. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm on the right page. I want us to shatter the glass ceiling of comfort. A lot of times we get so comfortable in a place that we are in that we actually forget to move forward with our lives by doing something a little different and going a little further. So, I want you to look at uncomfortable. And because it's the first time we're taking action, I'm really going to make you get outside of your comfort zone. So, we know Kristin Tierney woke up in a crack house. Where were you at that moment where you were super, super low and it was the most uncomfortable place you were in your life? Where was that? And I want you to really think about it and I want you to write it down. You're not going to have much time. If you need more time than I'm giving you, you just push pause. As you're writing down, I'm going to talk about the lowest point that I was in my life. You would think that I was actually in my molestation, which I talk about in my book, but really where I was happily in love and I was grown. And I would be waking up in the middle of the night, and I talk about in my book being really mad and starting a fight with Scott, my spouse, and my husband. And at the time, it was just we were dating, and so it's really important for me to go back to that space and be like, okay, that's where I was. That was Kristin's crack house experience, and now I have to go to therapy to pull my way through. So for you, was it weight loss? Right? Was it weight loss, or was it a new job? Did you get fired? Did you get a divorce? And so where were you at that moment where you're like, I'm extremely uncomfortable and now I have to crawl my way out of this situation? It's really, really, really important for us to work our way through that comfort zone or that discomfort zone and to really invite it, right? So for me, I look back and while it was an extremely painful moment in my life, I had to say, I have to look back and now be like, I have to invite that experience into my world to know that I was so uncomfortable. I was so miserable. I had to literally admit that I was going through something so painful that now I could utilize it to move me forward and to go to the next step. A lot of times people hide these emotions deep down inside. And when you hide emotions deep down inside, they percolate. And when they start to percolate, they start to turn into something. That's what coffee does. Coffee percolates. It is literally, brewing is the best way for me to describe it. And when when a coffee brews and it comes into the coffee pot and it brews for a long time and there's a lot of beans in there, it's dark. Right? And when it's dark, okay, it tastes good. But guess what? That caffeine is giving energy. And so if something is brewing really deep, it's like creating that negative coffee, if you will, and it's giving that negativity energy. But if you do let it push out and you do release it and you do accept it and you let it percolate, you let it brew and you let it come into that coffee pot, that you can say, okay, this is it. I'm letting this out. I'm pouring this down the sink, but I'm going to accept that it's here instead of keeping it down inside and keeping it in that coffee pot. So, what was that moment for you? And this might be really hard for you to actually think about, but what was that moment for you? All right. So we're only going to go through 4 of the superpowers today because I want to move on and utilize, pretty much half, and I have an extra superpower for a couple episodes from now. So the second superpower was full out. Now, if we talk about my second superpower, my book is full out. Now, if you think about Kristin Tierney, you think, okay, she woke up in a crack house. At what point was she full out? As I'm reading the book, yeah, we can say, at the end of the book, she's full out. She found her way out of the path. But let's talk about being full out in the moment to say, okay, I'm here. And now making you go a place where you might not even want to go. But Kristin Tierney, I say she was full out when she was walking those streets, when she literally was walking the streets, knowing that other, prostitutes or escorts had been murdered, and she's still walking the street. I mean, she was full out in it, right? And so she took that, she had that full out, and she's going for it. So where were you what were you doing when you felt so low, when you're in that uncomfortable place that you're like, man, I'm literally staying in here and I'm doing it. My full out was waking up angry and then literally not only starting a fight, but I was literally making it the other person's fault. When I knew deep down inside, this was not the way to go about it. This is not the way to be. But I'm like, hey, well, since I'm here, let me stay here, right? Where were you full out when you were really uncomfortable? And so it is another thing that's hard to admit. If you got a divorce, where were you at fault? If you got fired from your job, did you steal money? Did you not do your duties? And or did you start problems with your coworkers, right? And so the reason why I talk about, there's a bug in here, guys, so uh it's weird. uh so if you talk about full out and you accept that you were full out in a moment that you honestly shouldn't have been full out, but if you actually accept it, then you can say, okay, this is where I went wrong, but you can actually utilize it to move forward. And so the second thing on your worksheet is full out, and I hope you're writing that down. Now, the next two superpowers, instead of staying in that negative or that uncomfortable place, now we're just going to use the next two superpowers to get out. So the next superpower is being creative. Now, what I thought was really amazing about Kristin is that she was super creative. She said, okay, I need to somehow get off these streets. She went on Craigslist and she started making ads. Now, while she was really still in a, from the outside in, a really dangerous place, she said, I'm going to go on Craigslist. I'm not going to be on the streets anymore. I'm going to manage this. I'm going to get, I'm going to be able to a little more safe, contact these people, but she has to be creative to make money, to take herself to just kind of like a bit of a higher class, if you will. And what I think she was doing, maybe subconsciously, and we can ask her, but what I think she was doing subconsciously is saying, I need to utilize the powers that I had and the tools that I had when I was an executive at Nike and figure out how to work my way through this and then swim to the top so I can breathe. And, you can say fortunately or unfortunately, but at that point, that was her way of doing it. Was it still dangerous? Absolutely. Was it creative for her to go on Craigslist and create these really savvy ads to get super high-end clients that were discreet, that, not even a client wanted anyone to know that they were doing this. They had an escort. So in a way, she's moving herself she was creative enough to move herself in a place that was safe because everybody there was discreet. Now, you can say, oh, how is that a positive thing? Well, it's a positive thing because she took herself out of more danger. But for you, where were you creative to start to move yourself to get out of that dark place that you were in? And I know I'm asking you to think about a lot, and maybe some of you out there are like, I've never accepted this. But if you didn't, then great. Now you're going to utilize a creative tool to maybe take yourself even beyond where you are, even if you've never been in a sad place before. But for me, my creative moment when I was coming out of my I would say midnight terrors, if you will, real life terrors, my creative moment was really not only just going to find a therapist, but actually walking. Like, I would utilize that day that I was going to my therapist and not just have an hour with my therapist. I would literally say, if my therapy session was at 4 o'clock, I would leave my house at 1. I would take the train. I would go to this one place. I would have soup. I would prepare my mind. I would prepare my body. I would just prepare to open up my life. I would, just go somewhere where it was comforting for me. And I would eat the same thing. And I know that's really weird, but I can't eat carrots raw. So I would eat carrot soup because it was cooked. It was a vegetarian place and I wasn't even vegetarian at the time. But my creativeness was going there and having that last minute walk to prepare my life and prepare my mind so that when I walked in therapy, I was ready to literally open up. And I had made myself feel good before I actually walked in there. And so it's just obviously very important for you to write down a point at which you were creative to get your way out of it. And if I want to give you an example for you, so let's say you were going through a divorce, or maybe you're going through where points at which your family isn't accepting you for who you are. What's the creative way to do it? Find a support system. Maybe you need to go to the park. Maybe you need to, go to a new gym and say, or maybe you need to go on Meetup and find a group of people that are there that could support you. And how are you going to utilize your creativity? For me, it was, finding a path to prepare my mind. So what is your path for your creativity? So write that down or think about that as we go along. And then, so the last thing we're going to talk about today, we're going to utilize 4 superpowers, is being flexible. And I think the really great thing about being flexible is that it causes so much less stress. So with Kristin Tierney, her flexibility was being able to open herself to ask people for help. And when she was in jail, when she actually was in jail, and she was able to be released on day trips, not day trips, but work day trips. She actually was like, okay, like, I'm not going to sit here and not do anything. I'm going to go out to, I forget what fast food restaurant it was, but I am going to go out. I am going to work. I'm not just going to be miserable in this place. And so she was flexible. She just said, well, I'm not going to just sulk here. Not only am I going to go to work, but I'm going to utilize this greatness to actually bend the addiction and bend the prostitution, right? And was that moment for me, I was reading the book and I was beyond excited that she had found some greatness and she was flexible enough to bring her mind out of that place. However, she got on I think it was a train or a bus, and went up north, and then she fell back into the addiction again. Now, the reason why I personally don't feel like that's bad is because she took a negative experience of going to jail, and then she said, well, how do I bend? How do I become a little bit more flexible that I can find another way to move out of this space? And so I'm saying all that to ask you, at what point were you flexible, or what kind of flexibility do you need to use? If it's you and your spouse arguing every night, maybe you can try what I try now, which is, if I'm in a quarrel with Scott or just a friend, I always say, what is it that I'm doing? Number one, that could be causing this problem. What are my intentions? Are my intentions coming across the right way? But first and foremost, I put myself in their shoes for when I was in their shoes from another situation, if I was on the receiving end of this type of situation. And that flexibility allows me to actually speak to them in a different way, to confront them. Some people think confrontation is bad. I don't. But to confront them, but have a positive attitude in the confrontation rather than going into confrontation in defense mode. And so, getting uncomfortable, full out, being creative and being flexible. What I want you to do is write down everything that you're doing or you've done, or maybe you're going back to your transformation, or maybe you're going through a transformation right now and you're utilizing these tools and these superpowers. But when I finish this, what I want you to do is just take a minute, read back through it, and just accept what it is. Even if you're not in a place that you want to be at this moment, accept what is right now, because what is right now is going to be the superpowers that you are going to utilize in the future. And last but not least, what I want you to do, and write this at the bottom of the paper. This is superpower number 8. And superpower number 8 is your superpower. If you look at all of the superpowers that you thought about tonight or today, or wherever you're listening in your car, and you actually thought about getting uncomfortable and what place you were at, if you thought about being, there's a plane going overhead. If you thought about being full out, and what did you do that you were full out in that space, and then being creative, flexible and creative, if you put all of those together, what superpower did you have, or do you have, as you're going through your transformation right now? Now listen, don't use one of the superpowers in my book. I want you to come up with a superpower that you are utilizing or the average superpower that you're utilizing with what you wrote down or what you thought about. It is extremely important for you to accept what was, to accept what is, so that you can move forward. Thank you so much for listening. I want you to really stay committed to the journey. If you didn't listen to the podcast with Kristin Tierney, it's titled "Cracked Not Broken," and I really urge all of you to push to the next level of who you are and maybe go out and get the book and just, engulf yourself in it. It's a really good read and it's pretty fast. It is a story, and it is true. So thank you so much. Also, I wanted to say next week we are moving to a different kind of transformation. And I know a lot of you know Alana from To Be Mindset, but we're going to go back in the history of her and what was the foundation of her creating this program and the foundation of who she is. And then the week after, we're going to go into some more superpowers. Thank you for listening. And while I have you here, and it's my first podcast where it's just me, I want to thank my entire team, Shaun T, for getting behind the podcast and really pushing it out so that we can do something new and different. I do want to say that the first 2 episodes, the sound was a little weird. The mics weren't the best, but it gets better. Also, I want to thank my sound engineer, Todd Midget, for just always coming through. And I know that we have a hectic life here at Shaun T Inc. And I just hope you all know that I appreciate the hard work he puts in as a dad and a husband and a business owner. And then obviously you, to all the fans, thank you so much for joining us this season. Please go leave a review. It literally takes just a minute, please. Even if it's just like, I love you, Shaun. Obviously I like 5-star reviews. Again, don't review the sound on the first 2 podcasts. I promise it gets better. And then you can go to shauntfitness.com/SafeSpace to join my team and my team of people. And that is a lot of us, but it's great. Also want to say that we are headed out to Shaun T Trains Europe in May for 7 weeks. We're going to 7 different cities. So if you listen from Europe, I hope you're there. If you're interested, you can go to shauntfitness.com. We're having a transformation weekend, which I'm super, super excited about, in Nice in the south of France. It's going to be just, yes, we're going to work out, but it's not just going to be me talking to you. It's going to be us getting uncomfortable, putting our transformations in action in a really nice place. We're going to have dinner on the Mediterranean. You'll have time to go out to just enjoy the day. I'm going to be doing coffee talks every morning. And when I say coffee talks, it's literally us just like shooting the shit in the morning and having a good time. And so, yeah, that's it. Last but not least, if you're on a weight loss journey and you are doing, first of all, I hope you're doing Transform 20 or one of my programs on Beachbody On Demand. But if you are looking for just that really fun way to push yourself forward, it's really a good idea for you to kind of join different groups that maybe Facebook groups are great. And I'm not saying mine, like you can join any group out there. It is amazing to have the support. Obviously, I have the SafeSpace, and for specific work for weight loss, I'm working with Healthy Wage, and Healthy Wage is a way to kind of wager a bet on yourself. But the kick is my bet in my game is 6 months long, because short games are great, but let's get you in. Let's invest in yourself so that you can actually win money. I think it's really fun and really great. And last but not least, again, I just want to say thank you for listening to this season of Trust and Believe. If you want to, again, go download the worksheet that I talked about in this episode, go to shauntfitness.com/take action. I love you for you. Keep trusting and believing in who you are, like I trust and believe in you. And thank you.